What's up everyone, Art at Patience Metal Fab, and if you guys have been paying attention to our channel, you know we like to do build breakdowns on some of the longer term projects that we get through here. Sometimes it's a race car, other times it's things like the EV swap Porsche, which we just put a video out on. I'll put a link up here for you guys to check out. We also do a ton of side-by-side builds around here. Great example is this Maverick right here that we did the roll cage on. Now, that typically doesn't warrant a full breakdown video, but today we've got another new Can-Am Maverick that we've done so much work to over the last couple of weeks that we thought we'd sit down and really talk about it in depth. This is a really badass looking side-by-side, so I want to get Gary out here and show you guys exactly what we're dealing with. Morning, Gary.
Morning, Art.
I figured we'd take this opportunity before these two side-by-sides leave to do a little bit of a breakdown. Now this one's literally getting picked up right now. What exactly do we do to it, and maybe what is it?
Well, it's kind of a cool compare and contrast, right? Because this is the older Can-Am Maverick, so this is their X3. In this case, it's the RC. And then we got the new R over here. So this one was a little more of a watered down build, really just took one of our cages. This is kind of one of our very first side-by-side cages we designed. That one's got a little more, you know, design based around what the Mavericks actually look like.
And I haven't actually shown the audience the new Maverick quite yet, just because it looks so cool. I want to keep them in suspense. So I think we should start with you getting in, loading this up, getting it out of the way, and then we'll do the full reveal on the beautiful vehicle behind us. We've really got a case of out with the old, in with the new, because this Maverick is what, a 2024?
Yep.
And it looks incredible. Here it is. Now obviously this is with some modifications, but straight from the factory it already looks good. We just made it look like even more of a Batmobile than it did from Can-Am.
Yeah, you know, you get into the big things like profile, right? The first and foremost is roll cages. The old kind of round, bubbly cage, that's gone. This one's nice, it's sharp, it matches a lot of the profile lines on the car. We kind of did a cool eyebrow down on the front of it. Same thing with the sidebars. We kind of followed Can-Am's sort of styling cue with our rock sliders, but we refined them a little bit. So they're a little bit tighter, they follow the lines a little bit better, and we actually sleeved the frame because he destroyed a set of the first ones already out in Moab. So these are 120 wall DOM, and they're actually bungs that we sleeved into the frame rails to mount these two. So all functionality here plus good looks.
So that was one of the catalysts for this build, is these were all dented up, they were kind of jammed up towards the door. The cage was also kind of damaged in some places.
He took it out, he crushed those, he folded up the rear trailing arms pretty good. So this thing is now sort of in battle armor, ready to go. These things came out really, really nice. Again, we tucked them real tight, tighter than the old ones. Inside here where you actually have the mounting provisions to the frame, we actually drilled out the little holes in the rail, sleeved them with some bungs, and came through that bung with a 1/2-inch bolt versus the 7/16 bolts they used to hold these things on. If he breaks these now, he'll get an award.
You mentioned trailing arms, and that's one thing that somebody would overlook by looking at this build, because they kind of look factory, and that was really the intention, right? So what exactly do we do to them?
Yeah, you'd have to have kind of a good eye to know that these are done, because these had big windows in them for lightweight originally, and that's great if you're out, you know, desert mobbing, but you start crawling this thing, that doesn't work. So this is now a 3/16 plate on here. It's a gusset kit that's manufactured by a company that I can't remember, but Art will put a link in the video right now. He won't be able to beat these things, fold these things the way that they were damaged before.
So they're pretty subtle, but that's okay, because they're more about the function than the form. The thing that's a little less subtle is some of these Raceworks parts. I see a sway bar mount link right here. What do we got?
Yeah, so if you actually come around the back of this thing, you'll really see the pretty parts. So Kyle Cheney and CT Raceworks make some of the best parts out there for these things. This is their high clearance rear arm set. You can see their billet, they're gorgeous, they look good, but they also are gonna function Kyle and a Maverick R actually won King of Hammers last season with all this, with their tested parts on it. So you know that when you buy their stuff, it's gonna function, it's gonna work.
Those are a few of the aftermarket things we installed, but the bulk of our work was creating the custom PMF cage, which turned out awesome. It's got that super low profile view, especially back here. You can see just how tucked it is. I mean, you could hardly fit a couple credit cards through there, which speaks to the digital design of this and just the overall execution of the cage. So what made this cage particularly cool like this?
Well, like I mentioned before, that X3 that we had here a little bit ago, that was an older cage that we did. It was one of our first side-by-side cages that we actually designed. Fundamentally, it's all there, but you know, we were still coming out of building race cars where looks is important, functionality is more important. Now we've gotten a little more into the styling cues with our cages to kind of match some of the profiles of the side-by-sides, similarly to the sidebars as mentioned before. So this thing's sleek, it's low. We actually have like a cool eyebrow setup in the front of this thing. If you look at that front bar, you know, the front lower windshield bar kind of follows and profiles. It almost looks kind of similar to the actual OE bumper. Kind of, again, just to follow the overall styling of this thing. I mean, these things are super cool looking, so why not enhance it a little bit as well as bring in the added safety. On the safety comment, this is 095 1 3/4 tubing. This will protect him from pretty much anything he puts this thing on the lid with. Triangulated in the rear, overly built. You saw the PMF gusset in the back, the anti-intrusion bars, corner gussets on it. This is a stout cage.
Yeah, one of the things I particularly like is the roof skin over the top. And in a different video, Gary mentioned that the reason we like to put this on isn't only for looks and aesthetics. It's got a cool little lip here, but it's also if you flip one of these in the desert and it's sandy, you don't want to sink into it. So it's actually a safety feature, as well as protecting you from the sun and just making it look overall awesome. Making our way up to the front, it makes me think of an event that we were at a couple weeks ago where we debuted this side-by-side and everyone in the crowd was looking at this front suspension. Now this is OE, and Gary, do you have any details on why exactly it looks like a praying mantis from the front?
This thing is the rig that broke the internet basically. When Can-Am brought this out, everybody went crazy over these. The comments, the debates, it was nuts. But any of us in the car world know companies like Nissan, they've been doing a knuckle like this since they came out with the 350Zs back in 03, 04, whatever that was. It just allows for much better alignment between the ball joints. Overall, it allows the suspension to function better. I won't get too technical into why and the geometry of it, but anybody that's seen these things in the desert can vouch and know that setup works.
Well, it's definitely a bold design. And the other thing that we modified up here would be the CT arms up front. That's the same company that made the rear arms?
Yep, so this is their desert high clearance front arm on this thing. Definitely, I mean, not only does it look good, again, when you buy the CT parts, you know that they're gonna actually function and do it. You've seen them on their rigs, race proven out there doing what they need to do. So again, to give Kyle some reliability, some durability in this thing, nobody hates more than going from Minnesota to Moab, spend the time, the effort, get out there, break something, have days down. I mean, it's just really cheap insurance. Cheap insurance.
Yeah, there's nothing cheap about this one. I've seen the invoices. So this has basically just been bulletproof to what he wants to do with it. Taking it down to Moab, really being able to race it and not wasting a days-long trip because of a broken arm or a bent cage or something like that.
That's exactly it. So, you know, to kind of round it out, we threw some luxury amenities in this thing. Between the two rigs, we went with rugged radios set up in here. You can see the headsets hanging in there. It's nice, allows the passengers to talk to each other without screaming at each other. It also calms them into the other car, and you can play your radio through it. So he was able to get rid of the big, obnoxious, heavy stereo roof and subs that this thing had before. Now all your stereos contained within your headset.
Well, I think we pretty much covered everything on the side-by-side. Is there anything else that could even be done to this?
I mean, you could do more for power, you know, with the DCTs in these now. You know, you could do tunes, you can do bigger turbos, but Kyle just, he's happy with the power levels. He just wanted the protection and the reliability for this thing.
It just looks great. So I think there's nothing left to do but start it up, drive her out, and we'll get it out of here. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that breakdown. This is gonna be probably a little bit of a shorter video than the typical ones. What I'm gonna do is put a link in the description to all our build breakdowns for race cars and more in-depth projects. And we've got a lot more side-by-side stuff coming. Obviously those two Mavericks took off, but that means there's spaces for 2 more in our shop. So if you guys like that content, make sure you subscribe, make sure to like this video, and we'll see you in the next one.